Dominated by premium offerings, this chart is populated by some of the best family cars on the road, vehicles that can cope with the school run as well as tackling wintry conditions, mildly rugged terrain, trips to the tip, towing duties and long-distance motorway cruising. It's a hotly contested and strategically important segment where style, safety and space rank at the top of the agenda for buyers and, often, room for 7 occupants is required. That importance is underestimated by manufacturers at their peril, given that the segment has effectively obliterated the MPV market and is only expected to grow in the future. Despite a lack of variety in the styling and approach taken by many, it's now a fairly diverse segment that has attracted many brands into the fold of SUV making. Here are top 10 best family SUVs in 2020. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell button to get notification when we upload new video. Number 10, Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. If you're a family SUV driver looking for an easy way to cut your company car tax bills, you'll probably have heard about this car in the office canteen. If you haven't, get wise, because compared with a diesel family SUV, the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV might save you as much as £4,000 a year on benefit-in-kind tax alone, and another £1,500 on fuel, depending on your usage. That's probably why it's the UK's best-selling plug-in hybrid car to date. Performance is strong enough and handling dynamism is passable, although the car is never better than when cruising along in comfortable, economical mode. The electric-only range is about 25 miles. The model had its biggest facelift since its launch in 2018, getting a new 2.4-liter petrol engine, refined styling and tweaked ride and handling. Number 9, Seat Terraco. The Terraco is Seat's first attempt at a full-sized SUV and it's a pretty good-looking one, too. Being a Volkswagen Group product, it comes as little surprise that this Spanish SUV shares practically everything with the Škoda Kodiaq, although, unlike its sibling, the Terraco comes equipped with 7 seats as standard across the range. It feels a touch more incisive and agile than other SUVs of its size, but this sharper handling does seem to come at the expense of rolling refinement and outright comfort. In a car such as this, it's arguably comfort and refinement that should be of greater focus. Still, the interior is well finished, and the petrol and diesel motors are impressively refined. It's priced fairly competitively too. Number 8, Volvo XC60. It was the safest car ever tested by Euro NCAP at its launch in 2017, and all this time later it's still one of the most handsome family SUVs currently on sale. It's not the last word in driver appeal, but as a slick, comfortable family wagon there's plenty to recommend here. Volvo has revised its engine lineup too, so that all XC60 variants now offer some form of electrification. The B-Series petrol and diesel models now have 48-volt mild hybrid architecture for fractional reductions in fuel consumption and CO2 emissions, but it's the T6 and T8 recharge plug-in hybrids that offer the greatest potential for low-cost running. Number 7, Alfa Romeo Stelvio. Alfa Romeo took the platform and engines that made the Giulia, added some ride height and 4-wheel drive technology and created a fine-handling SUV in the shape of the Stelvio. Remarkable handling and typical Alfa Romeo film star looks come as standard, with a strong if gruff diesel engine to boot. Unfortunately, Alfa's focus on decent handling has resulted in a slightly restless ride on poorer UK roads, and some of the cabin materials feel plain and cheap, just as they do on the Giulia. A facelift for 2020 has improved things ever so slightly in this respect, and added a new infotainment system, improved driver aids, but it'll still take a keen eye to spot the differences between this and the original. It's priced reasonably competitively, though, if not quite to the extent that it was at its launch 3 years ago. Still, it's one for the keener driver, without question. Number 6, Mercedes-Benz GLC. The second half of our top 10 is where the handling element sorts the class leaders from the also-rans. The updated Mercedes GLC, with its well-appointed and luxurious-feeling interior, deserves its place in the top 10, but its numb steering means it's far from the first choice for keen drivers. It's more car-like to drive than many of the full-blown SUVs on this list, but it also rides less serenely than a Mercedes-Benz should on standard steel coil suspension, making it harder to recommend in base spec. On optional air suspension, though, it's among the most laid-back, effectively comfort-oriented cars in the class, and well worth considering. Number 5. Škoda Kodiaq. So what are you sacrificing? A chunk of premium feel materials for a start, although everything feels well screwed together. The Kodiaq is our top family SUV not to come from a premium manufacturer, and it undercuts even the cheapest of the plusher offerings on this list by a not insignificant amount. The top 4 SUVs in this list all have better balanced handling and ride quality than the Kodiaq, but not all of them offer a third row of seats. Aside from the slightly over-firm and remote way in which the Kodiaq drives, though, there's little room for improvement. An oily bits facelift could easily rectify its main problem. Number 4. Land Rover Discovery Sport. The Discovery Sport might be the entry-level Land Rover in the showroom range, but it isn't short on trademark Land Rover capability, comfort or charm. Facelifted for 2019, the Discovery Sport now sits on the same PTA platform as the Range Rover Evoque but hasn't lost out on any of the characteristics we liked about the original. It's still higher riding than many of its opponents, affords better visibility and 4x4 capability than many, and feels more like a traditional SUV to drive than some, while still handling in an impressively tidy fashion. It has a practical interior, a huge selling point in this segment, that has now been given a much-needed lift in premium appeal. Its petrol and diesel engines are now supplemented by 48 volts mild hybrid architecture in a bid to improve fuel economy, and a plug-in hybrid version is inbound, too. Those engines might still want slightly for refinement and outright performance, but if you want a family SUV with more off-road ruggedness than the class average, the Discovery Sport delivers that with very few associated compromises. An impressively slick new plug-in hybrid model means there's a more tax-friendly option in the range, too. Number 3. Jaguar F-Pace. Jaguar's first SUV is a doozy, with remarkable handling, plenty of cabin space and looks that rocketed it to the top of Jag's range as its best-selling model until it was overtaken by the smaller E-Pace. There are one or two details that detract a little from the overall driving experience, among them some undistinguished 4-cylinder diesel engines, a hesitant automatic gearbox and a slightly jittery, noisy ride in certain specifications. There's room for improvement too and in the car's steering. But the F-Pace is still a fine handling car and a very creditable achievement for Jaguar, and that nestles it impressively into third place, above even its Land Rover Discovery Sport cousin. Number 2. BMW X3. Before BMW set about making SUVs, the idea would have been borderline laughable, but the BMW X3 has handling appeal down, and then some. The X3 has powertrains with top-drawer driver appeal, even if the smaller diesel offerings can be a touch unrefined when pushed. But in all other areas, the X3 is a winner, and a close run second to the Audi Q5. Standard equipment is a bit mean on some trim levels, but the car's perceived quality is above that of almost all others, and its on-road manners are hard to fault, even on run-flat tires. Number 1. Audi Q5. It's hard to pick faults with such a classy and consummate all-rounder as the Audi Q5, although slightly anodyne handling is what will prevent the car from really appealing to keener drivers. This shortcoming hasn't prevented the Q5 from emulating the sales success of its predecessor, a car that became the best-seller in its segment in nearly every country in which it was offered. Although a pricey option with a long options list, the Q5 is quiet, practical and desirable, with outstanding driving refinement and material finish. Keeping in step with the times, there are now a couple of plug-in hybrid versions available as well. The 55 TFSIe is a particularly smooth operator, with its electric motor and 2.0-liter turbo petrol 4-pot combining to produce a compelling 362 bhp and 369 pound-feet. Keep its battery topped up, and you'll be able to make the most of its potential 26-mile range, and see your fuel bills drop in the process. Those were our 10 best version of the 2020 family SUV car. We do not work with any of the brands in this video, all of this is purely the result of our research from various sources on the internet. So which do you think is the best SUV for the family? Tell us and others in the comments. Please like this video if you liked this video and share with your friends or your family about this video, maybe it can help them as their consideration if they want to buy a new SUV for their family.